In 1940, it was a monster of concrete and steel, a symbol of national pride and what many considered the peak of military engineering. Belgium's Fort Eben had a reputation for being one of the most powerful fortresses in the world, manned by over 1,000 soldiers and bristling with massive artillery and armored turrets. It was designed with one single-minded purpose: to be unbreakable. Military experts figured it could hold back any invasion for months. They were wrong. It would fall in just over a day. And not to a massive army, but to fewer than 80 men who arrived in the quietest, most terrifying way imaginable, by landing on its roof. This is the story of how a small team of elite German paratroopers, using a secret weapon and an audacious plan, pulled off the impossible. To really get how shocking the fall of Eben was, you have to understand the fort itself. Built between 1932 and 1935. This wasn't just a fort, it was a man-made mountain of defense. Its footprint covered an area the size of 70 football fields, a sprawling complex of 17 bunkers and gun emplacements connected by more than 3 miles of underground tunnels. Strategically, it was crucial. It sat right above the Albert Canal, a wide waterway that was Belgium's main defensive line against Germany. The fort's guns, including huge 120mm cannons and multiple 75mm cannons, could stop any army trying to cross 3 key bridges. The defenses were just layered and seemingly foolproof. On one side, a sheer 60-meter cliff dropped to the canal. Another was protected by a wide, wet moat. The main entrance had a deep anti-tank ditch, minefields, and endless barbed wire. Inside this concrete beast, a garrison of around 1,200 Belgian soldiers lived and worked, ready for a long fight. Belgian planners were confident. A ground assault was suicide. Bombs would barely scratch its thick concrete skin.
The fort was built to fight the last war-static slugfest of attrition, but the Germans weren't planning on fighting that kind of war.
They had a new philosophy: blitzkrieg, lightning war. And for the lightning war to work, Eben couldn't be fought. It had to be eliminated instantly. The question was, how? For the German High Command, Eben was a massive headache. A normal siege would bog down their entire invasion of France. The fort had to be taken out on day one. The answer, as it often did, came from Adolf Hitler himself, who suggested a plan so crazy it was written off by some as pure fantasy. The plan wasn't to attack from the ground, but from the one place the Belgians never expected. Directly from the air. Not with bombers, but with gliders. The idea was to land a small force of commandos right on the flat, grassy roof of the fortress, completely bypassing the cliffs and minefields. From there, they would destroy the gun turrets and observation domes from the outside, blinding and disarming the giant before the main German army even showed up. A special unit was created for this mission assault detachment Coach, named after its commander Hauptmann Walter Koch. The team assigned to the fortress itself was codenamed Assault Detachment Granite. For 6 months, these 85 paratroopers and engineers were completely isolated, training in total secrecy on full-scale mock-ups of the fort's gun emplacements. They would fly in the DFS 230, a simple but effective assault glider that could carry 9 soldiers and a pilot. These were the silent wings that would carry them to their target. But their deadliest weapon wasn't the glider, it was what they brought with them. For the first major time in combat, they would use a new type of explosive: the hollow charge, or shaped charge. Some of these charges weighed over 100 pounds and were designed to focus the blast into a superheated jet that could slice through steel and concrete. This was the secret key that would unlock the unbreakable fortress. In the pre-dawn blackness of May 10, 1940, 11 DFS 230 gliders were towed into the sky. Inside were the men of Assault Detachment Granite. The flight was tense. One glider, carrying the unit's commander, Lieutenant Rudolf Witzig, had its tow rope snap and was forced to land back in Germany. Another was shot down. But the remaining 9 gliders pressed on, descending on their target at 5:25 a.m. as the first light touched the sky. On the roof of Eben, Belgian sentries looked up, confused. They heard no engines, just a strange whisper of wind. Then, Ghost-like shapes materialized out of the half-light, skidding to a halt on the grass, right in the heart of their fortress. For a few critical moments, the defenders were paralyzed with shock. A catastrophic blunder meant the wrong alarm was sounded, sending many of the garrison to the ground defenses instead of the roof where the attack was actually happening. The German commandos didn't waste a second. Bursting from their gliders, each squad sprinted to their target, their movements rehearsed to perfection. One squad ran to the main observation cupola, the fort's eyes. They slapped a 110-pound hollow charge on the steel dome, lit the fuse, and dove for cover. The explosion wasn't a dull thud. It was a violent crack that punched straight through the armor, killing the spotters inside, and instantly blinding the fortress. All across the rooftop, the same scene played out with terrifying speed. The commandos, led on the ground by Sergeant Major Helmut Wenzel, moved from one gun to the next. They used smaller charges and flamethrowers to silence machine gun nests at two of the main 75mm gun casemates. The charges set off the Belgians' own ammunition, blowing the guns right out of their housings. They dropped grenades down the barrels of the giant 120mm cannons, wrecking them from the inside. Within 15 minutes of landing, Eben most powerful guns were out of action. The giant was blind and toothless. The Belgian garrison, trapped underground, was in total chaos. They outnumbered the attackers more than 10-1, but they couldn't get to them. The Germans had sealed the stairways leading to the roof with explosives. A few counterattacks were beaten back with brutal efficiency. Adding to the chaos, Hermann Stuka dive bombers, guided by the commandos, began pounding any position that showed signs of life. And then, something amazing happened. Hours into the fight, another glider landed. Lieutenant Witzig, having found a new plane, had rejoined his men to see the mission through. For the rest of the day, the tiny German force held the roof, their job all but done. The story of Eben is an incredible lesson in military innovation and sheer audacity. If you find stories of impossible military feats like this fascinating, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon. And let us know in the comments what other legendary battles you'd like to see us cover next. As the sun rose on May 11th, the situation for the Belgian garrison was hopeless. The commandos still held the roof, and now the main German army was arriving. Having crossed the canal over the bridges the paratroopers had helped secure, surrounded and with their main guns destroyed, the fort's commander had no choice. Around noon, a Belgian officer emerged under a white flag to surrender. The final results were staggering. The unbreakable Fort Eben, with its garrison of over 1,000 men, had been defeated in about 30 hours. The cost to the attackers was almost unbelievable. Just 6 men killed and around 19 wounded. The capture of the fortress was a spectacular victory for Germany. It shattered the entire Belgian defensive line, allowing German tanks to pour into the country and outflank the famous Maginot Line, which helped pave the way for the fall of France. The fall of Eben sent shockwaves across the world. It was the world's first major glider-borne assault, and the first time shaped charges had been used with such devastating effect in combat. The battle proved that even the strongest fortresses were becoming obsolete in this new age of fast, three-dimensional warfare. The precision and bravery of fewer than 80 men didn't just conquer a concrete monster. They announced the arrival of a new kind of soldier, the airborne commando. The lightning strike on Fort Eben was a brutal lesson in the power of surprise and innovation. A battletta, in just over a day, rewrote the rules of war.